To begin installation on your K&N 63-7001 air intake system, turn off the engine and disconnect the vehicle's negative battery cable. Depress the locking tab and disconnect the mass air sensor electrical connection. Release the mass air sensor clip located near the oil filler cap. Remove the 10mm nut securing the harness clip and remove the harness clip. Then, reinstall the 10mm nut. Set the harness clip aside as it will be needed later. Remove the crankcase vent line from the factory intake tube. Loosen the hose clamp securing the factory intake tube to the throttle body. Pull the factory intake tube off of the throttle body. Pull firmly on the factory air box and intake tube to remove them from the engine. Remove the two air box mounting grommets. Install the two provided rubber bumpers onto the heat shield. Loosen the hose clamp that secures the factory intake tube to the mass air sensor housing. Remove the two torque screws that secure the mass air sensor to the factory air box. Remove the mass air sensor housing. Remove the O-ring seal from the mass air sensor housing. Install the mass air sensor housing into the heat shield and secure it with the provided hardware. Now it's time to install the silicone hose onto the mass air housing and secure it with the provided hardware. Install the silicone hose onto the throttle body and secure it with a hose clamp. Assemble the heat shield bracket and threaded inserts with provided hardware. Install the heat shield bracket assembly into the grommet mounting holes. Be sure to position the bracket properly. Next, install the heat shield assembly onto the heat shield bracket with the provided hardware. Install the K&N intake tube onto the throttle body and mass air sensor housing. Be sure to secure it with provided hose clamps. Install the provided silicone hose onto the K&N intake tube. Some trimming of the hose may be necessary. Reconnect the crankcase vent line to the silicone hose installed in the previous step. Pull the rubber wiring harness boot back from the mass air sensor electrical connector. Rotate the connector 180 degrees and reinstall the boot. Route the mass air sensor harness and reconnect the mass air sensor electrical connector. Install the provided K&N dry charger onto the K&N filter. Next, install the K&N air filter onto the K&N intake tube and secure it with the provided hose clamp. Install the provided edge trim onto the heat shield top cover. Some trimming of the edge trim may be necessary. Install the heat shield top cover and mass air sensor harness clip onto the heat shield with the provided hardware. Reattach the mass air sensor harness into the mass air sensor clip mounted on the heat shield. Reconnect the vehicle's negative battery cable. Make sure that everything is tight and properly positioned before starting the vehicle. Review the instruction sheet to make sure all steps were followed. After 100 miles of driving, check the nuts and bolts and retighten if necessary.